Hello and welcome. It's been the first live at this time in a long while, so hello to my 11 a.m. gang. Morning, Linda. Nice to see you here. And morning to Lou, who's looking after the comments for me today. Okay, so we have my stamps, and that's what we're going to start with today. So we've been doing pre-orders for a while, but they went fully live yesterday, so we have them in stock and they are available to purchase on the website. I'm sure they will be adding links galore. So we have our stamps and our stencils. So we have a layering stencil, which is going to do the majority of our colouring, and we have two background stencils that we can use for creating different looks. And again, those will work with your layering stencil too, so we can colour those as well. So your layering stencil is kind of the thing that ties it all together, that nice little bundle. Hi Mom! So I'm going to be working with some cards today. These are just a set from Home Bargains. So literally some nice good quality blank cards are going to be what you're going to need for today. Nice and simple. I've already done some masking tissue with the stamped images, and there will be a video on how I did that. I thought it was already up the other day, so I put it up on Instagram, but don't worry, it is coming. It's just needing more voiceover. And I have some super size little, I'm trying to think what the non-brand name version would be, because they aren't that brand. So if you go to Sainsbury's, we got them from, you can get these super huge post-it notes that I thought would be really useful to do some border effects with. So that's kind of the stash I have to work with today. I'm going to be using a VersaFine Clear ink pad, which is what we kind of recommend that you use with the stamps, especially with the registration stamp. And I'm just going to do just some nice stamping today. I have got the ScanNCut on if I need it, but we'll see how that goes. So we can talk about shaped cards and things like that, which will be exciting. And if you have questions along the way, pop them in the comments. I can see the comments as they are rolling up as well. If for any reason you can't comment, if you hop over to Discord, we can see Discord comments too and chatter. So we're all keyed in and ready to go. So let's first of all start with our card blank and what we're going to do. I thought it'd be really fun to kind of go and look at how we can build up the designs into larger designs, because I'm obsessed with things like large floral stamps that we can kind of create bouquet effects and backgrounds. And this stamp set is kind of build your own. So I thought it'd be really cool to kind of break down how we do that. So we could go diagonally, or we can do it as a border. Now, another top tip: if you are struggling with getting things kind of level, get yourself a surface with a grid. It doesn't matter whether it's a magnetic stand. If you want to use a magnetic one, that is absolutely fine. If you want to use a cutting mat, again, that's fine. The card blank does have a leading edge, so make sure that your leading edge is to the top so that it opens nice and easy. And I'm just going to line that up on my grid. Okay, I have this little L magnet that I can use to just kind of get that lined up and in place, like so. Now these are super strong magnets, so you can see they are a bit snappy. I'm just going to put one on this bottom corner too. Okay, so let's line up my post-it note, and I'm going to pick one of my grid lines to follow. Hi Suzanne! Okay, so let's go for this one here. And so long as both ends are on that line, we should be level. We hope. Okay. And we could put another one down this edge and just have a strip. It's entirely up to you. I'm thinking, just because it might be fun to see if we can get the ScanNCut to do this, I'm thinking it might be good to keep this area unmasked so that we can kind of create a nice shaped design running down here. But we'll see how it goes once we start getting some stamps on there. Now, when we're working with masking, we're always going to work from front to back, which can be a bit of a thing to get your head round. And the one thing I didn't put myself out was a stamp block. So let's get started there. I have this scarily big one that's to hand, so let's use that. And we'll pull the stamps out. Okay, so on the back of the stamps you have an exclusive link to a video class. You have the file for cutting out the stamps, in particular this one here, and also a link to our Facebook group and other projects in the same range, so that you can get the full collection if you haven't got it already. I'm going to start off with the nice big flower, like so, and pop that on my block. Now I'm going to move my post-it notes back out the way because I can see that I'm going to have issues if I don't. So as we're building up designs, we want to make sure that we get a good impression each time. So let's go into the middle, kind of just above the centre line first. We'll go there and we'll give it a good press. Okay, then we're going to go again. And this time I'm going to shift that angle and also the placement a little bit. So I don't want to go directly in line here. I want to kind of think about the curve that I want to create with my design. So I'm going to drop this one in here towards the bottom, line it up, press it down, like so. Okay, now we haven't got room for another full image of those flowers. So this is where we start to bring in our masking tissue. And I'm just going to pop that over my stamped image, like so. And another one over this little half flower. Like so. And then, because we want to try and always use odd numbers, I'm going to ink up that stamp once more, and we can pop one just about, let's just nest it behind that one, about there. And again, give it a good press. So if you think of your masking tissue and your notes as a kind of lip, we want to make sure that we get as close into that lip as possible. Okay, so we've got our 3 flowers, and again we want to mask that last flower. So I did cut loads of these because I knew that I was going to want to always be building up quite big designs. So that'd be my first tip. First thing to do, cut yourself a load of masks. And there are lots of masking material options out there, so you don't have to go with tissue. It might be that you want to go with something more like frisket film, and you can do that. Okay, so flower done, and I will be good and clean my stamp later. Honest. Okay, so pop that back on the mat for now. And this time let's go for something that's going to kind of fill in those gaps. So I have a little flower. I'm going to start with that next. And again, I have masking tissue for these little stamps as well. So let's just pop that there, like so. And again, pop over the tissue. And hopefully you can see what I'm starting to aim for. Okay, ink again. And I'm going to take this right up into this corner. Like so. Okay. So I'm getting this shape, but now I want to kind of switch it up a bit. So let's go to either some leaves or some petals to make little buds. On this occasion, I'm going to go to the larger leaf. And let's pop that one kind of heading out this way. And I'm being conscious where those magnets are as well, because I think that one's just going to have to move for a little bit. Okay. And we'll get our little masking tissue and pop that over like so. We can ink up again, and it could be that you're inking these leaves in a different colour to your flowers. So if you want super quick colouring, changing the ink colour sometimes can really speed things up for you. I'm going to pop that one just there. And again, let's put masking tissue on that too. So if we mask as we go, then we know that we're kind of covering everything. Okay, and let's go one more for good measure, just to finish off this edge here. And just decide which way round you kind of want to take it. Bless you. There we go. Don't drop the block. So we've got this kind of nice curve going on. Now, if you want to use the layering stencils to colour this in, then what you would do is stencil one, then remove the masking tissue of the next one, and so on and so forth, so that you're not accidentally over colouring. If you want to colour it with markers, then obviously you can just remove all of this in one go. It really is up to you. So it might be fun just to do a very quick little map of the layering stencil, just to show you how it kind of works. So, and let's get that out of the packet. So with the layering stencil, we have, first of all, there is etched the little word layering, and up at the top you have front. That way we know that we've got it the right way up, otherwise it won't work. So we can go in here and we can go, right, okay, what do we want to colour with? And let's go for a little bit green. So I'm going to grab bundled sage, and the quickest way to do this is actually with a blending sponge. So something like this. And this is really good way of getting some colour and texture down really quickly. So tap it into your ink pad and then just go straight into that area. Okay, now I want to go for this one next. And if something crosses, you want to make sure that masking tissue stays in place. And we can use a tip to kind of do a little bit of shading if you want to. Okay. And one more for good measure. Let's go in there. And again, on with the bundled sage. Now, if you want to go through and do the fancy layer shading, what you would do is do each of these as you go. So before you remove that next bit of masking tissue, then do that next layer of your leaf, then remove after you've done all those layers. So you have 2 additional layers for your leaves so that you can vary how you shade them. The idea being that all your leaves are not on the same plane. You're going to want to have some shading that you can then work with and add that shadow in with. Okay, so we have a flower up the top here, so we can get our little flower like so, and I'm just going to rotate that. Now this time, because it's quite a detailed little flower, I'm just going to add a magnet, and we can grab a little blending brush and a nice pale pink. So I'm going to go Kitchen Ringo. Now remember when I was saying back when I was talking about different ways of applying ink and ink blending, that your different tools are going to give you different layers of concentration. So as I'm working with a solid, we can go lighter, which our blending brushes are good for. I'm just going to work around the outside edge of my stencil, kind of letting that centre be a bit lighter, like so. Okay, I'm going to remove that magnet, and now we can turn round and let's go for the little detail one. So we have 2 different detail stencils that we can kind of choose from. So we want to just line that up with that detail there, and I'm going to go in with another layer with the blending brush, but you could also use something like the sponge, but you're going to have to use a lot of pressure with a sponge because these details are really fine. It's an absolutely beautiful stencil to work with. I always say with stencils, if you think you haven't put enough on, chances are you probably have. So they can be a bit misleading. There we go. So we have some shading to our petals. Okay, now let's go for, and we have to kind of go through things in order. So we've got this little flower down here. So let's do this one. And again, I'm going to do the all over stencil first, which is D1. So each of them are labelled. So in the class, you kind of go through what each design does and how to layer it up. Okay, and this time let's go to our bolder little design, and I can really then start to add in some colour into that centre. So I'm going to literally focus on the centre of the flower and just do that. Rotate the brush. And then we can even tap it right in the centre. And then we get a different look in our shading between the two. Okay. So now we're going to work through our larger flower images in order. So you're going to do the background one, so the last one that you stamped first. It's a bit confusing, but as long as you go, right, okay, I'm taking the topmost masking tissue, you should be fine. Okay, let's move the stencil around. The flowers are symmetrical, so there is no perfect rotation in terms of it only goes one way up, it goes any way up you want it to, which is really useful. Because if we're twisting our flowers, which we should be doing as we're stamping, then you don't want things that are only going to work in one direction. Now, the benefit of these stencils is that you can see where your masking tissue lies beneath. So this one here still has its masking tissue on. And that means that we can flick across the top of our masking tissue, and that's going to give us a natural shadow. Okay, you can also choose to do that along this edge here. That's going to help you when you come to drawing your border in a bit. Maybe a little bit more ink. Being a bit too subtle there, I think. There we go. So there's our first bit. And again, we have either our larger area design or a smaller area design. So I think I'm going to go for this one. Line this up. And the other thing I say about is actually swapping between which areas you put your highlight and which area you put your shadow. So if we've got a shadow that's coming down here, then probably this bit would be in shadow too, but you don't see it because you can see the masking tissue there. There's just one tiny spot there. So we can go crazy with just that one little spot there. Okay, I'm also going to add a little just to the bottom of these curves here and a little bit just there. Now, as I said, bear in mind, if you think you haven't put enough, you probably have. And there we go. So we have our flower. Let's peel this next one away. We can go down there. And we could just as easily be doing this with a sponge for this first bit as well. In actual fact, when it comes to the smaller flowers, sometimes you'll much prefer that, particularly if you're struggling with getting the detail of the points. It all depends on the tools that you have. So, keeping this first solid layer nice and light, like so, and then we can build up that detail. So up here, that bit under the curve will be in shadow, so I'm going to use that one just to do that bit there. That would be in shadow, that would be in shadow. Might be a little bit just there, but not much. Okay, then we can move to the detail one. So these top bits would be highlights, but the bottom bits around here would be shadows. So I'm just going to do those like that. You are going to get inky fingers, but it's okay. With Distress inks, they'll wash back off anyway, so don't worry about it. And let's just go round and round in the centre, and there we go. So what you want to create is flowers that have form. Any questions so far? Or have I sent you all to sleep? Okay, so at the moment I'm doing pretty simple shading. You know, I'm working with 2 different shades of ink rather than, you know, 4. So it's very, very simple. But as you get more advanced, what I would say is definitely start to bring in at least 2 tones into your flowers and 2 tones into your leaves, and it will look so much better. But sometimes you just have to start at the beginning and you'll get there. Okay, so now that I've got that all in there, again we can go, right, where's my shadow, where's my light? So shadow in terms of the curls is going to be at the top, so let's go a bit more mental up here, a bit there and a bit there. Okay, now I'm going to go to the detail and I'm going to do the opposite, so I work from the bottom up. Go, like so. Nice and simple. And we are nearly ready, I think, to peel this away. And there we go. So let's get myself a little ruler. And this is a magnetic ruler because I'm working on a magnetic platform. If you're working on a surface that isn't magnetic, then there's a brilliant product by Clarity that you can pop on back your rulers so they kind of stick and stay in place. Really useful. I use it a lot on my T-square, if you look, and I use that one. Okay, so I'm going to pop that down there, and that's going to hold that in place, and hopefully I can draw a nice border. Now, eeny, meeny, miny, mo, pick a pen. Let's see what I have in here. Ooh. Let's go for, why is it I can never see what I want even when it's staring at me. Come on, Mr. Pencil Case, stop being awkward. So let's go for, I know there's a nice chocolate brown one in here, and I do apologise for the racket because my mic is going to be picking up every little thing. But of course, that's never the one that comes to the top, is it? No, it's going to be every colour. So let's go for that one. I'm going to use an artist sketching pen. Picture it being in the chocolate one because you can get it in chocolate too. And what I'm going to do is just draw a line. It's going to go wee. And the trick with that pen is to draw quickly. Don't kind of dither and faff because otherwise it's going to bleed everywhere. Just start at the top, whip it down. And there we go. So we now have a nice little border. Now, fingers crossed, hopefully, if I apply this to a cutting mat, I might be able to cut it out with a nice shaped edge. And we'll see how it goes. So, one thing we need to do is we need to flatten out our card. And let me just move this out of the way so that we can have a bit of a clearer view of what we're doing. And I'll pick those up later. Joy of the magnetic platform. Throw everything at it and pick it up. going to bring in my cutting mat, and I'm going to be using the Artistic Super Duo for this one, just because it's really handy mat to have at my desk at the moment. And there we go. So as we are scanning, we want to go 1 inch in, 1 inch down, and I'm putting the shape up towards the top. Now I know that I want to edit this shape, so rather than doing direct cut, I want to actually go and play with it a little bit, and the only way that we can do that is if we use ScanNCut data instead. Okay, so we are going to load the mat if it wakes up, because it keeps going off to sleep. It's driving me up the wall. I've even set it to 3 hours and it still puts the screen to sleep. And let's switch view, would help. There we go. So I'm going to go to scan, and we're going to use scan to cut the data. Now the bit I'm interested in is right at the top of the mat, so I'm actually going to tell it to just look at that top part. It speeds things up a little bit, but we're well clear of that 6 inch mark. So even though it says 6 by 12, it doesn't quite do a full 6 by 12 scan. So that's just something to be aware of. So if you've done something on a 6 inch card and you think, but it's not picking it up, chances are that's why. So let's go OK. Now we have coloured the design, but it is on a cream background, so I am using colour just in case you can't quite see that contrast enough. Okay, so I'm going to go start. It's going to moan at me about the scanner lever, but to be honest, for now it can stay there. Just go. Sometimes you can get away with it. We'll see how it is, especially with the sunlight being the way it is. We're going to move in the arrows so that it surrounds but doesn't touch the area that we want to actually cut out. Okay, so I'm going to give you two options because we've done colour rather than black and white. So it gives you the option to cut around the outside, or it's going to do outside and inside as if it's like trying to find the windows. So think if it was like a coffee cup, it's trying to do the centre of the whole of the handle. So I'm going to say I want it around the outside. It's going to think, and okay, it's pulled out that stamp design ready to go. So at this point, it's given me the shape I want, but I'm going to need to edit it slightly. So I'm going to go OK, and then going to ask where you want to save it to. I'm going to save it to the USB because I have one attached, and go OK. And then I'm going to do something that feels really counterintuitive. I'm going to go home and reset. And it's going to throw up a bit of an error message, and it might give you some wobbles of, oh, have I actually saved it? So let's go to retrieve data to the USB, and then we can go and find our file. So just here you can see it's got that really bizarre numbering system of U000102. And I can add that. If you want to delete it from the USB, you can just use the bin icon. So if you're in the process of trying to clear stuff down, that's how you do it on the machine. But for now, let's go OK. And I'm going to go to add. So at the moment we're working on a 6 inch card, which means it has 12 inches in length. So I'm going to pull out something that looks like it would divide into squares. So in this case, BAA022. Okay, and at the moment it's landscape, so we want to put that height up to just shy of 6 inches. So let's go there, because we don't want to cut to the edge of our card, because then we risk damaging our mat. So we are going to go slightly smaller than what it is at the moment. So if we tap on that rectangle, we can then rotate it. So let's go edit, object edit, and let's go rotate. And we're going to rotate it 90 degrees this way. Now, at the moment, I'm using the Super Duo mat, which is 15 inches in length, but only 12 of those inches are usable. The idea being with the Super Duo that basically it can load from either end. So we have a decision to make. We can move our card so that it's lined up on that 12-inch mark and bring it up to that initial line. We could just move it straight up and keep it 1 inch in, so that at least we know that there is an alignment there. And don't forget, we can always use background scan as kind of our ultimate positioning guide. So let's move this across here, and I think I'm going to move my card right up into that top corner. Okay, now I can see straight away that this is about 1.5 inches tall, so I need to reduce the amount of height that my rectangle has without changing the width. So to do that, we can use the ratio button, and we can adjust the height, and it's always going to do it from the center. So if you need to readjust and move it down, then you can, like so. Okay, so with that done, I'm just going to go OK for now. Let's get this one here. I'm going to move this up to the top here. And when we're moving up to that top edge, it's moving that cut line up to the top of the active area and not up to the top of the mat. So there is a difference. Subtle, but there's a difference. Hello, Ian. You snuck in there. Okay, so now we can start to go, okay, we've got our card here. There's little bits in there that we need to fix, and we can use our shapes to fix. So if we go OK, and we're going to go to zoom, we can zoom in, so we can see there's a little bit here that's a bit weird. So let's take our rectangle up here, and we can fix that. If it then means that we need to do a little tiny bit of a trim by hand, that is absolutely fine. But we can also see that our width of our card is slightly off as well. So we can go OK, object edit. Now, because we've moved this up to the left hand edge here, then we know that it must move that width from the outside edge outwards rather than resizing from the center. So let's take that to about there. So we have something that looks like that. Now, as I said, we are still going to possibly have the issue of needing to do a little bit of snipping, but to be honest, that's no biggie to do, is it? A little bit of fussy cutting as opposed to having to cut around the whole bouquet shape is nothing. Okay, so we've now got our two shapes lined up. How do we then say that actually cut round the outside edge of those? Let's go to multi-select, select all, OK, and go to object edit, and we're going to use the little solid circle and triangle that are welded together. It's then going to say, are you sure you're happy with this? Because once you go through this process, you can't undo it. and might say, yes, that's fine. Even if you had done something totally wrong at this point, you've still got that scan available on your USB. Now, before we do anything else, move the card. So we know that we move that right up to the top. So I'm going to move my card up to the top. We also know that we've moved our cut line right up to the top. So our actual card is going to come up a little bit higher than the edge, just so that we can get to that flower edge as our active area. So you don't want that design to be quite touching on the, if I zoom down here. So here's your black line here for your mat. So we've still got a bit of distance between the two, so that it should be within the active area. Okay, and up to the screen. Try and get that in the right place. There we go. Okay, so we can go, okay, we've done all the editing that we think we need to do. Let's do a background scan. Now, the benefit of using the Super Duo is that it's not going to fall out when it does a background scan, like the 12x12 artistics can do. Okay, so we are in and on, and hopefully you can just about see that scan. If you are struggling to see the scan or the cut line, if we go to settings, we have two options. The left hand option is going to give you your scan as priority, so that you can see a much darker version of the scan. The second option is going to give you your cut line as priority, and it's going to knock that scan back. So it really just depends on what you're doing. If you are working on something like black pattern paper, so something that's really dark, you're going to want to use that second option. If you're working with pastels, you're going to work with that first option. So there is like a crossover point between the two. So I'm going to go OK, and then we can go edit, zoom, and we can check that alignment. How is it actually working out? So we can see it's a little bit over. So what do I mean? Just here, you can see that that cut line actually extends past the point of the flower. Now, the quickest way to sort this is actually to move the card, because we already are up against that active edge, so we can't move that anymore. But we can move the card. Now, every time we move the card, you want to do that background scan just to double check that everything is where it should be. But hopefully that should be in the right area. So I'm going to go OK, OK, and background scan. Whew. It's very warm in this window. Okay, so that's looking a little better. If we go to edit and zoom in, and I'm going to actually zoom in again. So down the bottom here where it says 200, we can actually zoom in again and go up to the 400. So now we can see that actually I've almost gone too far, but that we can sort in our machine. So I'm just going to go and nudge that to the right. Maybe one more for good measure. There we go. And so long as that's fine, we should be good to go, which would be cool. Okay. Now, we do have the issue of this edge here. So where I did that black line, it's got a cut line that goes around the edge. try not to worry about that. We can just snip that off at the end. So I'm going to go okay, and let's pop on, let's think, for this design, because we haven't got too many sharp details, I'm just going to go for the black standard auto blade. And let's just wonder where to just take that down just a little bit lower, but I should be all right. Should be all right. Let's see how we go. Have a bit of confidence, which is never a good thing. Not be overconfident, but try and work the stuff through. Okay, so we've got our file lined up, we've got our cut, we've got our blade in. We then just need to set our pressure. Pressure at the moment seems to be a bit all over the shop. I think it's done an update, so ScanNCut isn't overly happy with me at the moment. He's just having one of those days. So let's just pop that pressure. Let's go up one, and we'll see how it goes. Now I do have my speed at 1, just so it can navigate those tighter corners easier. Now this is a really good point to ask questions, because it's going to be a little bit of time while it is cutting. So usually when I'm filming, I'll just pause this bit. So let me just see if I can see the bottom of the comments. Hi Tracy. Hopefully you're doing okay. It's been a while since I've been live at this time in the morning. So, yep. How are you all getting on with your scanning cuts? Are there any questions that you'd like me to cover while I'm here? And you have my full and undivided attention, which is a rare thing. What did you do? Oh dear. So, yeah, broken toe is in the house. So there's about a 30-second delay between what I'm doing and when you see it, and also therefore the time that you then type. So if there's anything you want to ask, this is a good point to do it while we're waiting for the machine to kind of catch up. So yeah, it was telling me off for using like extra electric because of turning up the time that it takes for it to shut down. I'm like, no. If that was an issue, I would tell you. Let me do the thinking. Okay, let's see how that went. So, and there we go. So we've got that little bit of a tag just there, which I said about. Again, I can fix that and sort that. Let's go overhead because I forgot to tap the button. There we go. So we can just snip those little bits that aren't quite perfect, and we'll have a perfect little cut. So if I fold that back up, we can see that we've got this nice shaped edge, and I will grab a pair of scissors very quickly just to show off how that is going to look when it's finished. And we can stamp a sentiment onto that. We could draw it with our ScanNCut. It's really up to you. The stamps do have sentiment designs on, so let's just see if I can just get into that little corner there and just snip that. There we go. And there's a little bit up here that again we can just Go into there. Go into there. And there we go. And we have our perfectly shaped card that we can then create with as you want. So if you want to 3D up elements, so we could cut out another layer of our flower, color it the same way, and actually pop it up on some 3D dots. And that's a really good opportunity to actually break out your registered stamp so that you can actually then just cut that out nice and easily once you've colored it. Now the trick is remembering to color before you cut, because with every video I've done, for some reason I keep doing it the other way around. But it's a lot easier to colour it before you cut it, because obviously once you cut it out, you're dealing with this little cut out flower. So it's a little bit more fiddly. So that's just something to bear in mind. I do have some that I did cut out somewhere. I think they're hiding. Let's see if I can see them in here. Oh, here we go. Here's some I made earlier. So if I pull out one of these, you can see what I'm thinking. So this one I was good with and coloured before I cut, so that we can actually have like a 3D element, and you can still bring in some of the other elements as well. Or you might want to swap to, let's go for that one, the larger design where we've got that flower and leaf feature all together in one, so that we can actually 3D that up. It saves you having to kind of stamp every single little leaf out. Or we have the ability to actually fully layer the design. So we have the leaves. Let's go for, we can put that onto a background one if we want to. I've done ones where I've rotated the leaves as well. And then if we pop that there, we actually have a fully 3D. So if we then apply our foam between that. So lots of ways that you can use these stamps, and I will finish one off with the exact colours so that you can see how you can actually work with the 3D elements too. So with that said, that's nearly my hour up. I am going to be live again tomorrow, same time, same place. Doing a really fun 3D card with the stamps and the ScanNCut as well. So do join me then, and I will pop the files up on Discord for that after the live. So take care. Do join the Discord. It's a good way of us getting files and things to you so that you can actually play with them. So rather than using Facebook these days, take care, and don't forget to like, subscribe, ring the bell, and then you will know when I go live tomorrow. Could we look at making envelopes, please? All sizes? Yes, we can. We definitely can. There is a video on YouTube that should have the envelope video. I will see if I can find a link, but failing that, I will do another one. And thank you, Linda. And so long, and bye-bye.